All right, so welcome to the very first Whiskey and Wit conversation. I'm Kevin Gaylord, and
I'm Darin Lease.
We are the founders of OpsSherpa, which is a SMB consulting organization, and what we're going to do is basically try out some whiskeys and talk a little bit about whiskey and talk a little bit about kind of best practices, observations, tips, tricks, basically anything to do with small to mid-sized businesses and our experiences and kind of what we're seeing and what maybe value we can add. So a little bit informative both in the way of whiskey and wit.
Hope you enjoy.
Our first whiskey today, we've already kind of picked a couple. We're going to do all Scotch today. We're going to start with Monkey Shoulder. Now this has become, it's a relatively newer on the scene Scotch, and it's one that I think has become fairly popular because it falls into a lower price point for Scotches while maintaining a pretty healthy following. So let's give her a taste.
It's also a great introduction to Scotch for people who aren't sure they like Scotch.
Very good point. So we'll.
But who doesn't like Scotch?
There you go. Exactly. So we'll just leave the bottle there for you, and my friend Sláinte. That's nice.
It is. Been a minute.
That's nice. It's good buy.
It's a good buy. It's very drinkable. It's balanced from the standpoint of you can taste a lot of the different elements that we, and of course we're peatier guys, but there's all kinds of different varieties of Scotch, and I think this is a good solid introduction that you keep coming back to.
Yeah. It is a blend, so hopefully you already know the difference between single malts and blends. But a blend is basically they're going for, think of it like a recipe, an apple pie versus an apple. So you're putting multiple whiskeys together, Scotch whiskeys together, to come up with a blend that tastes exactly like you want it to taste, and they've done a very, very good job. So I think you also have a lot of consistency in those flavor profiles when you do that, versus some of the single malts, especially the more esoteric, smaller distilleries that batches change wildly. Some of them are just numbered because they keep changing every time. So kind of interesting, but I'm pleased with it. So. So we'll talk a little bit about OpsSherpa. Or maybe we should talk a little bit about us, I guess, kind of who we are, why we're doing this, all that good stuff.
Yeah, okay, sure.
All right, well, I'll give it a go. My background is largely, almost exclusively in operations leadership. The last roughly decade I've spent in an executive operations leadership position, working alongside Darin in a sort of a niche industry that touches a lot of different things. From, obviously, we've got customer and client and vendor relationship management, data management. We were in the fintech space with an insurance underwriter and all the oversight that comes along with those, and we moved into a SaaS space, so systems as a service, where we actually built out. Darin and I, one of our most successful projects, went through and did a full CRM build with a development company out of Greenville, South Carolina. Shout out to Dan Rundle and the Worthwhile team. But once we developed that, we now had a licensable system that put us into the SaaS space and give us a ton of opportunity, valuation for the organization. Went through an M&A process. So we've really kind of run the gamut, especially regardless of the 12 years before that with a whole different skill set. Well, similar skill set, but different set of experiences. That's just talking about sort of the last decade. So on the outset of that, I ran a distribution company briefly. There were some concerns there, so elected to not do that, but instead work with Darin and form a consulting business for small to mid-sized businesses where we can share our knowledge and our enthusiasm for this. And at this point, we also share a dram with you. So here's for you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Absolutely. So I'm a 20-year veteran of IT. I have a lot of background in really all facets of it, from hardware, and used to be server side, and now cloud-based, and but also the software side and development, and then of course now most recently with machine learning and AI. And about the last 15 years or so, I've been in a variety of executive leadership roles as well. So last year took an MIT very thorough course, sort of end-to-end, on building and deploying AI projects, from business requirements and use cases all the way through testing the models you're going to use, and then testing the finished platform when you deploy it for efficacy. Of course, it is doing what you want to do, and that's obviously the big value there.
And so we bring a very strong operational leadership background and technology, a BI and AI, now AI, structured mentality as well, coupled with systems knowledge from CRM, anything portal integration, APIs, AI, BI, data lakes, the whole 9 yards. We also have some elements that are not in this room, where we have connections to a cybersecurity group that will do a free cybersecurity assessment of an organization. They can also provide MSP support. They can provide pretty much anything on the back end as it relates to supporting your IT and cybersecurity standpoint. We've got a connection to a hardware expert out of Arizona that can really fill in any gaps you might have on that front. We've got connections to a sales and marketing guru who is also in the state of North Carolina, and also used to work with us on the executive level. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at the vest that Darin's wearing here and the logo on it. That was ultimately his brainchild. That's a different conversation maybe we'll get into later, or if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll be happy to elaborate. So we can really cover almost any aspect of a small to mid-sized business, support, guidance, and so on. What we're offering all the time is we see most consulting groups either specialize in what they do, or they're very, very large, kind of the other end of that, where they really have more demands. We're very flexible. We like to roll in and just have a conversation with you, with business owners, and business leaders, and ideally all the key stakeholders in an organization. Spend an hour or two, have a great conversation, just sort of dig and get an understanding of what might prompt you to want to have a conversation, growing pains, inflection points, whatever it might be. Maybe something is missing. Maybe you just want an assessment, just want to know what you don't know. All those things. That doesn't cost a dime. We'll do that one totally free. Or if you just want to, have some whiskey in conversation, we'll do that as well. But we basically we'll sit down and chat with you, and then we will provide you back with a report, an analysis, and a debrief of what we took out of that, and a recommendation of next steps, where there can be a determination of whether or not you want to utilize our services, or just sort of take what we've given you and run with it. And either way is fine. We really enjoy this stuff. So I think that's the OpsSherpa piece in a nutshell. It's OpsSherpa.net. Go take a peek there. I'm going to have some more whiskey here. So again, sláinte. Not terrible. Let's talk business.
All right.
you asked me the question the other day, and I think it's a great way to just sort of start wrangling here. Is I think you asked me this: is what do I see as the largest challenge or problem or opportunity with small to mid-sized businesses today?
Yeah.
So really current. And I'm going to throw that same question back at you, Darin. What do you see as the biggest challenge or opportunity for SMBs in English-speaking countries, especially in the United States?
Yeah, so I think it probably pairs a problem that's always there when it comes to inflection points like you talked about with the more recent advances in AI and feeling a need to integrate that into your business, whatever the size, or you're falling behind. So what are the opportunities there? But the inflection point I'm talking about is scaling, and that's where AI can absolutely help. But I think there's a misperception out there that you're going to use AI to replace everybody's job, and there is a market out there where if you're starting your own business from scratch, depending on the concept and what's involved, AI can take a lot of roles for you in terms of HR and finance and different elements. But when you've got a small to mid-sized business and a mature organization that's just looking to take the next step in terms of growth, it's a lot more about integrating it into the platform and the business model we already have, or finding ways that we can tweak that business model to be more efficient, with or without AI. And then AI is kind of the capstone that lets us increase the scaling, right? And so if there is movement within an organization in terms of personnel, you're keeping the same personnel, but now they're all knowledge workers who have been part of your culture, part of your business. They know what they're doing, and you have AI do a lot of the heavy lifting stuff that anybody could do, and that allows you to scale much quicker. What do you see? We haven't told the folks in this session.
Yeah, no, Darin, I think you're right. And I talked a little bit about this on the podcast that we did recently, but I'll dive into it a little more. I think small to mid-sized businesses have these natural tipping points, these inflection points, growing pains, but they all seem to hit at these, almost, I don't want to say obvious, but I mean, if you did enough analysis, these sort of obvious places, which could be a top line dollar amount, might be, at 5 million, 20 million, 50 million, whatever. But that's an oversimplification. The point is, there are these tipping points, and SMBs are typically, founder-led organizations, and what you end up with is that super invested, super driven, works 120 hours a week, completely driven and absorbed and emotionally connected to the organization founder that is doing most of the roles that would be found in a C-suite. So they're the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the CTO, the CIO, the CMO, CSO. They're doing all those jobs, and then you've got probably some mid-level or however the organization looks, sort of management team, and then the maybe the customer-facing element below that, whatever the organization is. So you have this weight carried predominantly by the most invested individual, and that's manageable for a period, but there is like I say, an inflection point where it is not manageable, right? And now you start to have losses that you probably don't really see for a while. So you're losing new clients that maybe you are aware you didn't get, or maybe you just say, I can't deal with it, or whatever it is, but there's growth opportunities that are not being realized. There's very likely somewhat of a reduction in the management of the client and customer experience that's just a byproduct of being overwhelmed, and then there's also internal burnout because you've got a founder that is really killing themselves to get it done, but that, while they want to shield their employee base as much as they can, unfortunately that does roll down throughout the organization, and that can last for a while, but you start creating cracks in the foundation. So that's an example of that sort of first leg of an inflection point. And then from there you might jump up to a point where you really say, maybe there it's just I need to fill a few key positions, and then there's another inflection point where you say, I've been outsourcing certain things, right? So I'm outsourcing my marketing, I'm outsourcing my IT, I'm outsourcing I'm running operations with a senior manager or a manager. They're not really equipped to go beyond that role, but hey, they keep the doors open, they keep the lights on, whatever. And you really are, then you're looking at this inflection point where you need to start to build out certain elements of the C-suite. And that is one I like to talk about a lot, because I think this one's very hard to see from within. Yet it's maybe clear when you shine a light on it. So you might be in a situation where an SMB desperately needs a COO or a CTO or certainly a CFO to plug or take ownership of a really large portion of the firefighting that goes on, but also to introduce expertise and background that just because you're the founder of a business does not mean you're an expert in every aspect, right? You're the most knowledgeable because of the experience and the sort of institutional knowledge, but people coming from other industries, other businesses are going to bring something new in. Yet you run into the problem of, well, I have this need. Let's say I have this need for a COO and a CTO. Just pulling that out for ease of conversation here. So I have this need, and what's that going to cost me? And those two positions, conservatively, $300,000 to $500,000 a year. All right, probably on the high side of that number. When fully loaded, I'd say very close to $500,000 a year for those two positions, and very likely you're not in that. You're not positioned to either give up that much of your funds, or maybe just don't even have it at all. Maybe that's outside of your reach. So how do you get that done, right? Because now you rock, hard place, and that's where having a group like this come in and take a peek and come back and say, hey, you really are at that point where you need to shift into somebody meaningful owning these things. How do you get that done? Well, that's when you can discuss fractional leadership. So a fractional CEO, a fractional COO, a fractional CTO who can maybe they're only spending a couple hours a week, but you've now got somebody that's saying, coming in, they've got their folks that they're guiding, spend a couple hours a week just sort of setting people up for what that week needs to look like, owning that enough so that you can relieve the strain elsewhere. I would say that is probably the number one area of opportunity. It differs obviously a lot depending on industry. So manufacturing is going to look very different than a marketing company, than a software company. I mean, everybody's going to have their own variation, but the concepts are the same.
Right. And that's absolutely a service that we can provide, both having executive experience in those areas, and I think I should underscore something else that we talked about early on is that we like to do this. Right?
We love this stuff.
It's our jam. So yes, and the whiskey for sure, but the business part of it, we're problem solvers at the heart of it, and I think I learned this very early on in my career. It's really easy to identify a problem. You can't always, right? Sometimes it needs an outside perspective, but generally you're going to understand most of your problems in your business because you're the founder and you're the expert. But coming up with effective solutions for those problems, the way other businesses have done it, and maybe outside the box thinking from a different industry and those sorts of things. Actually mapping out solutions is hard. And then there's another piece to that, which is actually executing on the solutions that you've mapped out, whether you're talking about a software system or integrating different systems or introducing AI, or it all starts with a business process, or it's going to fail. And going all the way back, it's particularly true with AI, but going all the way back to the beginnings of computer technology, think back to the 60s and 70s, and it's ultimately not that old, but it's been from the beginning about automation. But the built-in flaw for all of that is if we don't have our processes nailed down, and if we're not analyzing those themselves and thinking through those processes, all you're going to end up doing is automating the same thing that you've always done. And there's two problems with that. One, you're ignoring opportunities for process improvement by itself, and then number two, you're just automating a bad or whatever process it is, you're just automating it. So you make it go faster, but you may not get the kind of anywhere from incremental to exponential gains you could get from automation if you're not looking at the whole thing from end to end.
No, that's brilliantly said, Darin. And you know, I put an article out about that a couple weeks ago. You know, people are treating, it's a broad stroke to say this, but people are treating AI incorporation into their business because there's just practical and it's logical and you feel silly not to do it, but there's also demand from their clients and their vendors and their end users of the product, whatever it may be. So there's this almost obligation, this sense of obligation to get it done. But the way that they're doing it, I will say, when I say they, I mean the majority of organizations, how they live, I'd say the vast majority, is there because there's not a strong knowledge set within an organization on this yet. And they're probably not using a consulting group where there is expertise. You then are basically saying, let me plug something in as a tool. It looks good, it smells good, I can share it and say I'm doing it. But what you're really doing is you're putting a Band-Aid right on a cracked foundation, and that will work for a while. Probably not all that long, but it'll work for a while, or it'll look good and sound good. But ultimately, it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, and whatever the problems were before you implemented them are absolutely still there and absolutely going to come back to the surface. You've just muddied the waters for a little bit, and unfortunately, the lift and the cost to fix it when it does resurface is very likely higher, obviously, than doing it right the first time.
Yeah.
Ready to try another whiskey?
Absolutely.
All right. So, monkey shoulder. Probably give this, when I consider cost, flavor, availability, the cool little monkey emblem on the bottle. I'm going to probably give this a solid 7 out of 10. What would you say?
Yeah, I'd give it a 7.5. I think it's still very drinkable, very enjoyable, even though we've gotten more sophisticated with our scotch. But I think it's a fabulous entry point. It's a staple that you can come back to.
It's a good one to keep on the shelf. So there you have it, 7 to 7.5 out of 10.